world. Life is full of strife. People just aren't nice. Everybody's talking smack, running games on this and that. Racial resentment adds to discontentment. Talk to any guy, he'll tell you taxes are too high. Books, movies are corrupt. Suicide is way up. Kids are a sorry lot. Some folks say it's cause of hot. Phony people kids. Wow, everyone has flipped. If it ain't one thing, it's another. If it ain't one thing, it's another. Everybody's shacking up. Married folks are packing up. Country's going up in smoke. Where is Noah with his boat? Blacks marching on DC. 400 years, still not free. Martin paid all man can pay. Still he's not a holiday. Folks messing with my mind. Make me a Frankenstein. This woman by my side, she's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Can't get my head on right. Problems day and night to calm my nerves. I've tried smoke. Doctors give me dope to cope. If it ain't one thing, it's another. If it ain't one thing, it's another. My funky 2-bit jar went on strike. I put up with a lot of crap I don't like. And to add to my woes, this ugly woman named Sadie called and said she's having my bad. God have mercy. From my day of birth, I've gone hell on earth. A number is all I am. Ain't got no friends, don't give a. If you ain't got no pull, you gotta put up a lot of wool. This funky world is cold. I'll flush myself down the. If it ain't one thing, it's another. 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 My friends, I wonder if it's okay if I talk to you this evening. A long time ago, my old grandmother, bless her heart, used to sit me on her knee and pull out her good book. And she said, my son, my child, don't you ever get too broad, too famous, too rich, to forget the man upstairs. And she used to turn to Matthew chapter 24. And there the disciples were talking to the master, and they said, Lord, tell us what will be the sign of your coming and the end to all this confusion on earth. And the good Lord said, my children, watch out that nobody deceive you. For in the last days, there'll be a lot of tribulation, wars and famines and earthquakes in different places on the earth. And there'll be no understanding among people. He said, but as you see these things occurring, don't you become too discouraged. Just lift your hands high, because your deliverance is getting near. And he spoke about the proclamation about the coming kingdom or government of God that would eventually take over this earth and rule over the whole earth. And I turn to Daniel chapter 2. And there Daniel describes that this kingdom will not be an earthly kingdom, but it will be ruled by God. And over in the book of Revelation, it talks about how there'll be a lamb who is Jesus and his faithful 144,000 who would bring all mankind back to perfection. Some of you out there know exactly what I'm talking about. And Isaiah a long time ago said, oh, I see old people growing young again. I see lame people running and leaping just like a gazelle. And blind people will see again. And we won't have to worry about our children going outside and play at night. They'll be able to play with a slate, and there'll be brotherhood and peace and tranquility on there. Oh, it makes me feel good when I read over in Revelation that it said God would wipe out every tear from our eyes. Yeah, that's in Revelation chapter 21. Why don't you pick up the good book and read about it where you say it? And my friends, I don't know if I'll ever see you again. Life is certainly uncertain these days. I'm sure you'll agree to that. But keep dreaming a big dream. Get down on your knees and ask the big guy in the sky for his spirit to sustain you. And pray for me. I'll be praying for you. Good night.
In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the most merciful, the truthful, and the most just. I greet all of you once again who are hungry and thirsty for the true understanding of the Word of God, which is for instruction in righteousness. I greet you all with the greeting words of peace. May Allah's Salam Alaikum. I have many things that I want to share with you. But I think I need to show you. Thank you. Show you something that was brought to my attention by one of the believers. It was on Newsmax. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I just want to show you that most people, they don't know the origin of Christianity. The origin of Christianity is the Roman Empire. It's not. It never had nothing to do with God. You've been deceived into thinking that Jesus, that the term Christian meant a follower of Christ. Well, that's not true. That's not what Christian originally meant when they were called that. And when you look up the word Cretan, like I told you, you look it up and you will see that one of the spellings of the word Cretan, Cretin, one of the spellings of it is Christian. And it is a terrible meaning. And the people in Antioch, when they called the disciples Cretans or Christians, they didn't mean nothing good by that. And I'll tell you something else. You have been listening to people reading the Bible in print and giving you scriptural, W.D. Muhammad called it scripturalism. And that was, and what he said about scripturalism is that they take the word literally in its natural meaning. When they say Jesus turned water into wine, they thought that meant literally Jesus took physical water and turned it into physical wine. uh, but that is not, the Bible is a spiritual book. And the Bible says that the carnal minded cannot discern meaning understand spiritual things. Where's that, brother? I like to show you these things so that you are not deceived by, because the spiritual things require a spiritual eye, a spiritual mind, a spiritual ear, and you cannot acquire a spiritual eye, ear, and tongue unless you have been spiritually born. In other words, unless you have been reborn spiritually. In 1 Corinthians 14th verse, it says, but the natural man are foolishness unto him, neither can he know them, because they are spiritually understood or discerned. Do you understand? And as Jesus bore witness in John, the 3rd chapter, Jesus told Nicodemus, he said, verily, this is the 11th verse, verily, verily, I say unto you, we, messengers of God, speak that which we do understand, which we do know, and we testify to that which we have foreseen. And you cannot receive our witness because you don't have spiritual ears. Remember, Jesus said, think not that I'm come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. Well, if you send the sword, the only one that can receive it is someone who is spiritually reborn. Do you understand? So that's why I'm the one that Allah said, Son of man, I do send thee unto them, and thou shalt speak my words unto them, whether they hear or whether they refuse, for they are most rebellious. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been speaking Allah's word to you, whether you were accepting it or rejecting it. So, so now I want to, if you recall, the book also says, strive to enter in at the straight gate, for straight is the gate. Pardon me, for broad is the way, and wide is the gate that leadeth to destruction, and many there are that go in thereat. But straight is the gate, and narrow is the way that leadeth unto life, and few there be that findeth it. Huh? Okay. In order to really understand what that's saying, you have to remember other things that were said, as in, many are called and few are chosen to call them to the right way. Why? That's why I said Jesus followed in their footsteps for a rear, calling them back to the right way. They was going the wrong way. Huh? All of the messengers went after their people who were going the wrong way and tried to get them to turn around. Few there be to call them to the right way. As Allah said to me, call to the way of thy Lord and argue with them in the best manner. Huh? You notice I call all of you to the true religion, like the foolish man that was in here yesterday. I think it was yesterday. These days going so fast. And he told me that Islam is not in the Bible and is not in the Holy Quran. And yet, when you look up the definition of Islam, it says submission to the will of God. Well, if a person believes in submission to the will of God, then they are one who submits. In order to be a one who submits, your religion has to be Islam, and that makes you Muslim. Do you understand? For that's the meaning of Muslim. It means one who submits. And when you submit, that is submission. Do you understand? So, by definition, Islam is in the Holy Bible. And Islam is actually spelled out in the Holy Quran. It says, I have chosen for you Islam as a religion. Huh? Why? Because all your religions are as filthy rags. And I'll show you. The religion that you got, like you got Protestants. The Protestant faith came from people who protested the Catholic Church, and they split off and kept calling themselves Christians, but they didn't stick with the Catholic. Do you understand? So that's why they call them denominations. Huh? What is I'll show you an example. A penny is a denomination of $1. It's also a denomination of a nickel, which is a denomination of $1, which is also a denomination of a dime, which is also a denomination of a dollar. It's 1/10 of $1. Huh? And the dime, if you go by tenths, then a dime is a denomination of a 50-cent piece, right? And so, a nickel is also a denomination of a quarter, which is also a denomination. You notice they call it a quarter, a 25-cent piece, right? And a quarter is called a quarter because it's 1/4 of $1, right? You did know that, right? Yes. So every it's denominations, but it's all part of $1. You see? And so that's why they call the Pope the father of what? Of the church. They don't just call him the father of the Catholic Church. He's the father of the church. Why? Because if you are calling yourself a Christian, then that religion has one author, and that author of that is the white man, and whatever pope is up there is the chosen one to be the head of it. Do you understand? Okay. And they even practice what's written in the book of Revelation, that about sending up the smoke out of the pit. And when they choosing one, they send up, I think it's black smoke, as long as he ain't up yet. But once they done chose him, then they send up white smoke. And out of the bottomless pit. And that is, you notice, the religions of this world are like props on a stage. You see, this world wasn't set up to guide you to the right way. This world was set up for the perdition of ungodly men. So all your religions are, as Isaiah said, he said, all of our righteousnesses are as filthy rags. Huh? Anybody disagree with me? So it ain't no wonder Allah said, through Prophet Muhammad, he said, he it is who has sent his messenger with the guidance and the religion of truth, that he may make it prevail over the religions, all of them. Why? Because all of your religions are as filthy rags. Huh? Now, let me show you something here.
Very relaxed. Of course, you go in dressed in cassock, and you usually kiss the Pope's ring. But then
what they do in the movie The Godfather, you saw that? Where did they get that practice from? What do they call the Pope? Call him Father, huh? What Father? If he the head of the church, well, he's the Godfather. Is that right? Okay, now let's go on.
It's everybody to pause for a moment and leaves us in grace.
I mean, they got treasure troves of gold and rings and stuff like that in the Vatican. For what? The book says, bring the tithes and offerings into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, that I can eat and have a place to lay my head and sleep. And that I will open up the windows of heaven to you. This is the way you can prove who I am. And I will start pouring you out blessings that you don't have room enough to receive them. I'm not amassing wealth so I can sit down and count. The wealth I'm trying to get is so I can get busy building something for my people. To show them that, you remember Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz? Begging to be taken home? Remember that? And all the time, her means to get home was right there on her feet, wasn't it? And all she had to do was realize that there ain't no place better than home. Huh? And that finally dawned on her. Right? Well, like you sitting around here begging, give us this, give us, we need jobs, we need this, we need that. And you got money, you can make all the stuff that you claim you need, you can do that yourself. if you would just unite. Unite to do what is right. And that's what I intend to show you. That if we would just unite on what is right, we'll all be fine. Allah promised that. If we will just cleanse our hearts by washing, as the scripture says, washing in the blood of the Lamb, in the life-giving teachings of the Lamb of God, who's standing here talking to you. You just pay attention in class and hear and obey what I teach you. You are becoming a new person. You know, as many of you, you would call me worried about your relatives or your friends or others. The only thing you is invite them to hear me so that I can give them the peace that I'm offering and giving to you. The reason you having trouble is because you doing things your own way. I know that because when I have trouble, it's because I was doing things my own way instead of the way that Allah dictates. Anytime you think you know more about the automobile than the manufacturer, you are deceiving yourself. And anytime we think we know more about being human than the Creator, we have deceived ourselves. So, but you see, they're giving the history of Catholic Church and the priests. And all these people, the popes, you know, it's time to wake up. You notice, ain't no priest. You go and tell any priest, from the Pope or any of them, and you tell him that I call their religion false and that it was made up by them. They're not gonna come in and tell them I'm offering $50,000. Matter of fact, you tell them I give them $100,000 if what I'm saying is not true, and I would be willing to pay with my life for lying. The Holy Bible is not a Christian book. All scriptures are Muslim books. They are for those who humble themselves and surrender to God and submit themselves to God, which is the whole duty of man, to fear God and God alone, and to do his will. As the book says, let us, in conclusion of the whole matter, fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty. Notice, it didn't say this is part of our duty. It says this is the whole duty. That answers your question about what is the purpose of man. Your duty is your purpose. Do you understand? Hey, I tell you what, when you go to a job, if you get on somebody's job and they hire you, and they may hire you as a supervisor, and then they see you, the one that hired you come out there, and he sees something going on the floor that shouldn't be happening, and he looking for you, and you over there sitting down. He said, "What you doing, man?" So, I was taking a break. You're supposed to be supervising these people. That's not what I brought you here for. Your purpose for being here is to supervise these people, right? Hey, he probably gonna show you the way out, huh? Show you the way to go home. So our whole duty is to fear God and keep his commandments. Well, we say, well, I can't understand the commandments. Well, that's why he said you wait. And eventually he said at the Sabbath day, he gonna send you somebody to give you understanding. I didn't hear you. Well, and he told you who that one he was gonna send. He says, Son of man, I do send thee to the whole house of Israel. To all these people that's been living under the mind of Jacob, whom we surnamed Israel. And give them warning from me, because they don't understand what I done wrote in here about them. So when I say to him that he gonna die in his iniquity if he don't do it, you tell him that that's talking about you here. You tell him that part that's talking about him. Huh? And that's what I've been doing. It's just like people that wish that I was dead. You just think you wish that I was dead. If I was dead, you'd been gone. You going right behind me. I promise you that. The book says I'm your only salvation. Even the Holy Quran says, we granted to no mortal to abide forever before you. And if you die, will they abide? Not according to what's written. But God so loved the world that he gave his only. Do you know what only means? Ain't no more. His only begotten son, S-U-N. Well, I don't believe what you're saying. Well, whosoever believeth on him shall not perish. I didn't hear you. See, it's all been answered already. Before you opened your mouth, it was already answered. Well, many don't believe. Well, whosoever do believe shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Huh? For God sent not his son into the world to condemn the world. You notice I stopped. Good. It's been a while since I condemned anybody. You notice I stopped picking on white folks. I stopped picking on everybody. I just started inviting everybody to salvation. Have you noticed that? The Son of Man came not to destroy men's lives. Benignant God. Huh? Do you know what benignant means? It means harmless. Wasn't sent to condemn nobody. But that the world, through him, might be saved. Huh? Saved from what? Look at all this wrong people doing. But if they would listen to me, they would stop doing all of those sinful things that they are doing, and then they wouldn't have to reap the consequences of the sins that they're doing. The wages of sin is death. Huh? And, you know, one of the reasons why I'm not real hard to get along with is because in all of your affliction, I got a taste of it in me too. So to condemn you is to condemn myself too. And I don't have any suicidal tendencies that I'm, you know, I'm not interested in suicide. And I'm not a person who, what they call people who like to inflict harm on themselves. I forgot what. No, a sadist is someone who inflicts harm on other people. No, don't guess. There's somebody out there that's been into psychology. I forgot the word I used. You know, I don't. You know, of course, I ain't that, so I don't. I don't have to know what it is, what the word for it is, because I ain't interested in suicide. Masochism, yes. I thought he said narcissist. Okay, yeah, masochism. No, I'm not a masochist. Believe me, no sir. And so I'm not a sadist either. You know, as you would that men do to you. You know, people who like to be in pain, like somebody inflicting pain on them, they enjoy inflicting pain on other people. Do you understand? Not me. No. So I'll let you see a little bit more of this, where they just laying out what the Catholic Church been doing, and then you following them.
Cardinal Rodrigo Borgia becomes Pope Alexander VI when mule loads of family silver are used to bribe the cardinals into electing him. Once Pope, he poisons his rival cardinals and then...
How did Lindsey Graham go from not supporting Donald Trump to being his lapdog? I'd sure like to see his bank account. What do you think? Marco Rubio? I mean, what's the all of them up there. Mitch McConnell, all of them up there. I mean, Mitch, he really, man, you know, President Obama, he gonna show that the Senate is, we keep him in check. He went from keeping the president in check to giving him a blank check. Huh? Ain't that something? To show you all of them crooked. So, but you see what popes was doing? Bribing people. So they just copied what they were doing. Huh? Let's get back to that.
Payoffs
Now you see why they hated Jesus so much? You remember when Jesus went into the temple and took a whip in there and flipped over the tables and started beating the money changers out of there? And he said, it is written, my Father's house shall be called a house of prayer, a mosque. And you have turned it into a den of thieves. Huh? Yeah. They said, we gonna get that so-and-so. We gonna get that nigga. Huh? And they, we already sacrifices goats and cattle and abolish sins for people. That was their way of getting some free food. Then you sacrifice that fat one over there. Sacrifice the fat one. Don't get no lean one. Sacrifice that one and offer him up to the altar as a burnt offering. They burn him and they cook him. They cook him and eat him, brother. And so that was the way of getting a free meal. Ain't that something? So they said, your sins is forgiven for this week. People sure are gullible, ain't they? I tell you. You know this. It's one thing that you will notice about a con man. A con man don't find his people that he considered to be friends or compatriots of his. He finds those that he looks down on and considers to be worthless. Those are the people that he go to and run his game down on and get back with his buddies and laugh. They laugh about it. Say, that's stupid. They deserve what they get. Find a sucker, bump his head, man. Huh? Because I get tired of shaking hands with these disgusting people anyway. I didn't hear you. Huh? What do you think Donald Trump think about these so-called religious people standing around him, knowing he's a liar? And they standing around here talking about he's anointed. He can't wait to fleece them. Huh? He fleecing them too. I didn't hear you. Still taking money from them. I mean, it's hard for me to feel sorry for you. Anyway, anytime a person lies to you and is conning you, it's because they don't care nothing about you. If they cared about you, they wouldn't do it. And that's why Howard Stern said the people who love Donald Trump the most are the ones that he hates the most. That he, Donald Trump, hates them. Huh? You know what Donald Trump say about people who lose, who ain't got sense enough to hold on to what they got. He call them stupid. Huh? Call them losers. You want to anybody that would take part in his cabinet, he considered them all stupid losers. You know why? Because in the first place, he know he didn't deserve to be president. He know that. He didn't even have a victory speech wrote out for president for that office. And if he knew it, he knew they should have had sense enough to know it too.
right? So whenever they advised him to do something, talk about they in there trying to keep the guardrails up. Donald Trump was telling people in so many ways, go to hell. Huh? You don't tell me what to do. What I look like listening to you? And you stupid enough to even consider putting me in this office. Huh? So he doing just what I told you he was going to do. Destroy your government. That's what I told you he was going to do if you put him in there. If you was that stupid. I notice ain't none of you saying that I didn't say that. How did I know that? Donald told me. He sit up there and told us what he going. I'm going to drain the swamp. I remember what they said about the slave. You can't let the slave learn your language, because if you let the slave learn your language, he's going to be talking to you man to man. So he going to understand that we don't mean we. And our don't mean our. As we tell him, John, we got to get our crops in. And you got to let him, you can't never let him really understand that we and our don't mean we and our. Because the minute he started understanding that, he said, well, boss, you go and get them in. I got to go get mine in. So Donald, he said, I'm going to drain the swamp. And they ain't even thought about the fact that the swamp had already been drained. See, he's playing with words on you. You see? What used to be the water is now buildings and the Senate and the House of Representatives. When the last time you had a Senate and a House of Representatives? You ain't even noticed that you ain't had no Senate and no House of Representatives. It's not yours no more. It's taking a bath in Russia or wherever. That's what Grover said he's going to do, didn't he? Reduce it down to the size that it could fit in the bathtub. Now, I'm saying this to try to wake you up. You know, when somebody get drunk, you know, and that's what you are right now. You've been drinking too much of that Kool-Aid on the internet, and you've been killing your mind. Why are you always looking for somebody to tell you what you want to hear instead of tell you the truth? Do you know how unintelligent that is? To only want to talk to people who agree with you. That's the kind of president you got. He cannot rise to the occasion. In order to rise to the occasion, you got to have it's just like dough. You can't expect dough to rise if you didn't put no yeast in it. Huh? Donald Trump wasn't raised to have a conscience about caring about others and empathy for others. He told you that what he thinks about people who care about what happens to other people, he thinks they're stupid and weak. That's a sign of weakness. Donald Trump can't even say he's sorry to see people die. I ain't never heard him say it.
He said he ain't never asked God for forgiveness. He said that's a hard question, and that's a pretty difficult question there. You know why? I can tell you why. Donald Trump know more about what the purpose of making white people was than he let on. Just like Adolf Hitler. You notice his daddy wanted to go back to Germany, but they wouldn't let him back in there. So he had to stay in America. But he didn't want to be in America. And he tried to bring the philosophy of Adolf Hitler to America. Why you think he joined the Ku Klux Klan? You know, because you always find some people who are stupid enough to think that color means something. And you can always use that to make them think that they are better than other people. And then you can get them to do all types of atrocities. All you have to do is convince them, tell them that they are better and everybody else is inferior to them, and to get rid of them others because they're not worth nothing no way. And so you can get them to do all types of war crimes. You notice Hitler convinced white people in his army, them youngsters that he enlisted in. I think when they was 16, by the time they were 16, he had them in uniform. Huh? Ready to go and kill whoever Hitler said kill. And all your problems is because of these Jews over here. Couldn't say because of these other white people, because he done told them white people is superior. But now Jews, so kill them. When you ain't got none of Abraham's seed to kill, and you ain't got no strangers to kill, then you have to kill the ones you love. What that song say, we killing strangers, so we don't kill the ones we love. Huh? You gotta kill something though. He like to kill. He's bloodthirsty. He killed Martin Luther King for wanting to be his brother. I didn't hear you. I mean, really. I mean, that stuff is rich. You know, and if I didn't know the whole truth, ain't no way I could even speak to them. But I know the whole truth. And I can't act like I don't know the truth. As the messenger said, now don't blame them for what by nature you put in him. He said, blame yourself for putting it in him. Tell me Donald Trump gonna rise to the occasion, to the office of president, and he's gonna have empathy, he's gonna care about people. That's religious teachings. That's righteousness. That ain't in him. Didn't you see him tear gas people so he could go and take a fake picture with a Bible holding it up? I mean, that man ain't got no religion in him. Now, how he gonna rise and ain't got no yeast in him? Jesus called the word of God leaven, as in levitate, as in rise. Huh? Well, how you gonna rise if it ain't in you? And it ain't in him. And he surrounded himself with people who, if they didn't kiss his ring and pledge their allegiance to him, he you got to go. Huh? So he just punks everybody that come in his circle. Because if they was about anything, they wouldn't even be trying to get in his circle. He know that. I could say a lot of other things, but I'm not. Sometimes you have to let people think that you don't see. So let's see here.
Great times in the history of the church.
These folks lived like kings. They were corrupt. They were debauched. They had.
And also, you remember that commercial? The man was doing the tattoo, and he said, "Well, don't you have to draw something on it?" He said, "Stay in your lane, home." Huh? Right? Well, I've learned to stay in my lane too. Because I know all closed eyes ain't sleep. You know? The one thing about talking, you got to know not to talk too much. You understand? Okay. Go to now, you rich man, and weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Huh? He laying up plenty treasure on earth here, ain't he? Well, I mean, I could, it's places in the book. For instance, in the book of Luke, that 12th chapter there, in the 12th chapter of Luke, and we're going to start at I think I'll read from the first verse. It says, "In the meantime, when there were gathered together an innumerable multitude of people, insomuch that they trod one upon another, he began to say unto his disciples, first of all, beware ye of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is nothing but hypocrisy." Huh? Yeah. "For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, nothing hid that shall not be known." What that man doing to the Vatican now? Telling on them? Huh? What are all them young men that was raped by priests and stuff like that? What they doing now? Telling on them, ain't it? Young ladies, young men that was raped by the Boy Scouts and all this kind of stuff. Telling on them, huh? Okay, nothing hid that shall not be known. You remember the Page Boy scandal that hit Washington? Remember that? Yeah. Says, "Therefore, whatsoever you have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light of understanding when the Lord himself shall come here." You notice the messengers of God, as Jesus especially, he didn't speak nothing without a parable. Huh? He spoke it in darkness, didn't he? I didn't hear you. All right. He said, "And that which you have spoken in the ear, in closets, shall be proclaimed upon the housetops." You hear people say, "I'm coming out the closet." Is that right? I'm going to tell it. Tired of putting on. Right? Look at what Donald Trump brought out of people. Huh? Yeah. "And I say unto you, my friends, be not afraid of them that kill the body, and after that have no more that they can do. But I will forewarn you whom you shall fear. Fear him which after he hath killed your mind have power to cast you into hell. Yeah, I say unto you, fear him." Huh? Didn't hear you. You notice, everybody come in here talking crazy to me. I wind up showing you that they don't know what they're talking about and leaving them speechless. And then sometimes they get way out, and then I'll cast them in hell. Huh? Because they didn't have sense enough to know that they have reached and come in contact with the immovable force, the irresistible force, and the immovable object. Huh? You got to know when you fold them. Remember that song Kenny Rogers made? You got to know when to walk away, and you got to know when to run, man. Okay. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 1/4 of a penny? A farthing? And not one of them is forgotten before God. But even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear not, therefore, ye are of more value than many sparrows. Also I say unto you, whosoever shall confess me before men, him shall the Son of Man also confess before the angels of God. You notice, every one of those who spoke the truth, who confessed the word of God, they made a truthful confession. Huh? You notice, I use all of their words and I speak of them right here in the presence of the rest of them. You notice I speak Muhammad's words in the presence of Jesus, and I speak Jesus's words in the presence of Muhammad. Huh? Then it says, but he that denieth me before men shall be denied before the angels of God. Remember Peter? When did you decide that you're going to declare sainthood to Peter? A saint is a righteous man, right? The scripture said ain't none righteous. No, not one. Only God can declare saints. You ain't got no authority to be declaring nobody no saint. Anyway, let's move on. And whosoever shall speak a word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven him. But unto him that blasphemeth against the holy mind that was produced by the Son of Man, the Holy Scriptures, it shall not be forgiven him. Why? Well, it was said that. The Holy Quran says, every ungrateful one, when you give them the understanding and they show ingratitude and then act rebelliously, cast him in hell. Huh? All right. So that's what I do. And it says, and when they bring you unto the synagogues and unto magistrates and powers, take no thought how or what thing you shall answer or what you shall say. For the Holy Ghost shall teach you in the same hour, the mind that's in you. That's me. You notice. You remember when they came to Jesus? We caught this woman in the act. Moses lost that stone. What say you? Jesus didn't respond emotionally. He waited, and Allah revealed to him what to say to keep himself from getting stoned and that woman. Didn't he? Move not your tongue to make haste with it. Is that right? Yeah, you have to know that the serpent is more subtle. They wanted to have a double stoning because they didn't see no way out for Jesus, right? They knew he was compassionate and he wasn't going to want to stone that woman. So they thought they had him, right? Okay. For the Holy Ghost shall teach you in the same hour what ye ought to say. And one of the company said unto him, Master, speak to my brother, that he divide the inheritance with me. And Jesus said unto him, Man, who made me a judge or a divider over you? That's all right, Ed. He didn't say, my dear brother. He said, man, who made me a judge or somebody to divide over you? And then he said unto them, take heed and beware of covetousness. Beware of your desire for other people's stuff and your desire for things. For a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. And he spake a parable unto them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, what shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow all my fruits. And he said, this will I do. I'm going to pull down these barns and build bigger ones. And there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, I will say to my own self, my own mind, in my thoughts, soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take it easy now. Eat and drink and be merry. But God said unto him, thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then whose shall those things be which thou hast provided? So is he that layeth up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. Huh? Where the priests and all of them was doing, putting treasures together. How in the world you aspiring to be the representative of God? God chooses his representatives. You can't aspire to be God's representative. Unless the God you trying to be a representative of is the one you made up, which is no God at all. I mean, they show you every time a pope pass away, they choose another one. Then how could you think God had something to do with that? You know, you silly. It's just like sitting up talking about God anointed Donald Trump. No, God didn't anoint Donald Trump. I tell you, the American people and the Electoral College anointed Donald Trump. They anointed him president like they finna anoint Joe Biden president. You people live in a dream world. The disbelievers are in nothing but delusion. Anyway, now I want to show you something here. What'd you say?
You have a question?
Go ahead.
From Tahad Nasil, and he asks, since slavery in the United States, he says the United States started in 1776, which is approximately 245 years. If we were in slavery for over 400 years, were we slaves somewhere else?
you know, we were slaves in the same place, but they didn't become the United States. They were colonies of England. And then the tyranny that they got a taste of and finally realized that they were living under tyranny while enslaving us, they decided that they couldn't stand tyranny. Being told, you labor and you give us this and give us that, and you give tribute to the king, and when they decide, well, what's in it for? Well, you just do what you're told. So they realized that they was being treated like they was treating us, huh? As thou hast done, what? So shall it be done unto you. And so they realized that they was they were living under a tyrant king. They said, we can't, you ain't gonna treat us like slaves. And then when they became independent, then they wanted to keep the slavery system going. And President Lincoln, you know, he understood that this can't work. This is hypocrisy here. We can, on the one hand, write the Declaration of Independence and talk about all men are endowed with certain inalienable rights, and we going against that with putting these people in slavery and declaring that they're not men. No, that don't work. And so what happened? War broke out. The states that came to birth in 1776, and then wasn't long after that slavery was causing the country to break apart. You know, for not just the money aspects of it, but the hypocrisy of it. And so Lincoln said, no, we just can't do this. There's no way to reconcile this. Well, so the 9 southern states, I think it was, that was trying to secede from the Union. And Lincoln said, no, you're not. You're not finna break this up. Because it's not like everybody in the South had slaves. It's just the rich Southerners had slaves. Yeah, for the most part. And so they went to war. And, you know, one thing that led to another, the Union won. The Union Army was really that. The Union Army. They was fighting to keep the Union of the United States. The Confederacy was people who came together, states came together to fight to be independent nations to themselves. You know, and they lost. And they've been trying to refight that ever since. That's what you're seeing now. They call themselves evangelicals now. They ain't never the Confederacy again. You know, they ain't fooling nobody. They've been just like right now. Do you know it's at least it used to be a criminal offense to incite to rise up against the government? It's called insurrection. I'm curious as to why I know none of the news media has pressed Donald Trump on asking him, what did you mean when you told the Proud Boys to stand down but stay ready, stand back but stay ready? Stay ready for what? What, you want them, if you lose, you want them to rise up against the American government? Of which you've been the president of. That's rich. Anyway, let's get to this. Now this is the man that you elected president. So I want you to listen to this interview. I played it for you once, but I want you to listen to it again.
Tonight, Donald Trump under fire for saying it's okay to call his daughter Ivanka, quote, a piece of ass. And it is far from the first time that Donald Trump has raised eyebrows with how he has spoken about her or acted around her. Deborah Farrick is out front.
Thank you, everyone. Donald Trump has every right to be proud of his daughter. Ivanka is a successful, Ivy League educated businesswoman, author, and mother. She's now helping run his campaign and introduced her father at the Republican convention. Yet at times, his fatherly praise is downright cringeworthy, like on The View in 2006.
Said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Oh, it's so weird. Stop. You know what? You are.
Far from protecting his daughter.
You see, they helped make him president. That wasn't funny. Why didn't you get on him about it?
From being talked about as a sex object, he has encouraged it multiple times on Howard Stern's radio show in 2004 and then again in 2006.
By the way, your daughter, she's beautiful. Can I say this? A piece of ass. Yeah. She looks more voluptuous than ever. She's actually always been very voluptuous.
See? He didn't care how you talked about his daughter. That's not the way that a civilized man refers to a woman. And a civilized man, even in the locker room, ain't talking like that. That's not the way upright men that are qualified to run a nation, they don't have them kind of conversations about women. Because it's beneath their dignity to do so.
Ivanka described herself as a feminist while defending her father on CBS after a scathing New York Times article about his alleged negative treatment of women.
Is there unending commentary on the female form? No. I've known my father, obviously, my whole life, and he has total respect for women. Please welcome the lovely Ivanka Trump.
He has total respect for women, even referring to them as a piece of ass. How is that total respect? See, y'all a bunch of devils. Babylon the Great is fallen, and it has become the habitation of devils. And a stronghold of every foul spirit, every foul mind, in a cage for every kind of unclean and hateful person.
Even Ivanka seemed confused when talk show host Wendy Williams asked.
What's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
Donald Trump has always been proud of his daughter.
I'd call collect to his office. I was probably, 10 years old. He would pick up the phone every single time. And he'd put me on speakerphone. Wouldn't be a long conversation. He'd introduce me to whoever was in his office.
And he was front row when Ivanka took to the catwalk during her short-lived career as a fashion model. Still, Donald Trump repeatedly points out how hot his daughter is, saying last year in a Rolling Stone article, "Yeah, she's really something, and what a beauty, that one. If I weren't happily married and, her father."
My daughter, Ivanka.
Yeah.
She's 6 feet tall. She's got the best body.
Yeah, she's hot.
Ivanka continues to defend her father and has said he is not sexist. Earlier, her Twitter account showed a little heart liking an article about her father's decade-old comments to Howard Stern. The Trump campaign directed us to Ivanka's brand manager, and a source there tells us it wasn't Ivanka who personally liked the item. It was, quote, a simple mistake by a staff member. CNN has reached out to the Trump campaign for a response about the comments themselves. Aaron?
All right, Deb, thank you very much. And next, the break.
So you can't claim you didn't know who you was putting in the White House. That you didn't care. Then you want to walk around here acting holier than thou, like you believe in righteousness and that you are really concerned about the moral fabric of them. And you ain't concerned about your false idea of white supremacy. If you so supreme, why don't you come in here and have a conversation with me and show me the superiority of your wisdom? Go get your best and bring them in here. I'll even let them host the broadcast. Then they can tell me when I can speak. You, well, y'all something. You a piece of work. Let me see here. Let me show you something else here. This was an interview in 2013. With President Obama and at that time Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. They was being interviewed by 60 Minutes here.
60 Minutes Rewind.
Before I let that play, I want to say what I get is that many of you who refused to vote for Miss Clinton, you resented her intelligence. You know, that's sad. I'm so thankful that Allah gave me a heart to admire intelligent people, not feel threatened by their intelligence. You didn't even take the time when people said hateful things about her, and you didn't even take the time to remember that in this country, when people accuse you, you have a right to face them, to face your accuser, and they have to offer proof of your guilt. Huh? But no, you because of your resentment of a woman who, I mean, this woman had been the first lady for 8 years. She had been a senator for what, 6 years? Then a secretary of state for 4 years. And even before that, the woman was an accomplished lawyer. She was a senator for 8 years? Okay. Now, you know, what I don't get is you who were so adamant, lock her up, lock her up. For what? Lock her up for what? Because you couldn't hardly measure up to her kneecap? Just, you know, I found out some things, you know, if you wasn't spending so much time looking for gossip and instead looking for facts, you wouldn't be in no pandemic now, because Hillary Clinton would have been president. You would have had someone who was overqualified to be president of the United States in that woman. I remember the messenger, as I told you yesterday, the messenger said, he said, don't count the woman. Don't look at your woman as nothing. She's something too. He said, I mean, they wise too, because you made her wise. Some of them can lead some of us. So, you know, when I got ready to set up a school here, I called on the woman. I mean, we got some smart sisters. I mean, and our graduates, the ones that I introduced to you, they taught them. They gave them their degrees. And they earned those degrees too. You ain't just getting by in our school. No, they had to go take SATs or ACTs and all that. Because I told them, look, I want to see how they measure up with the educational system of this world too. We haven't had a student to fail the ACT. And they wasn't even taught in that school system. But the ones that's teaching them was taught in that system, and they brought some of that education to our school. And I'm not over there trying to micromanage no school either. I'm not in charge of it. The sister directress that's over it is in charge of it. You got to free them. Not free them to be under you, but free them truly, indeed, to let their mind go free to create and to achieve, and hopefully to be willing to achieve, to help achieve the goal that is set by the head. But anyway, but you listen to Miss Clinton as she's speaking. And you chose Donald Trump over her. Just listen. See, he didn't know what the achievement was until he lost it. In 2016, you saw the most respected nation on earth become the most ridiculed and puzzling. A nation that everybody was looking up to. All of a sudden, people was trying to figure out what in the hell had happened to America. Huh? Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama did not bring shame upon America. You know, that's the one thing that you want when you transfer the reins of power. It's just like when you was watching that relay race that I showed you. When that man that's got a hands that baton off to the next man, he don't expect that man to lose the lead. He expects that man to start off fresh and even widen the gap. Isn't that right? Donald Trump was handed a good economy. He was handed a country that was respected all over the earth and in some ways feared. And people all over the earth had confidence that they could always depend on the United States for whatever came up until Donald Trump. I had never in my life seen white people, black people, and all these people standing in bread lines while the stock market doing fine. During the Great Depression, the stock market crashed. And people were in bread lines and in soup lines and kitchens and stuff. You turned your government over to an unpatriotic bigot. Why I say unpatriotic is because that means he did not care about the well-being of the United States of America. And when his scientific community warned him that a pandemic was imminent, he came out and told the American people that it was a hoax. And now 268,000 Americans are dead. And millions more are sick. And you can remember, and I can remember back in January and February when there wasn't but 15 cases of that virus in this country that was known. And scientists had already mapped it in January because China had released the code on it. And so scientists had already, this vaccine that you have to keep at terrific cold temperatures, the scientists said it's basically the same vaccine that they had for it in January. that they had to do tests and things to make sure that there wouldn't be no harmful side effects. But instead of him letting those scientists lead the way, he purposely blocked them from being able to talk to you. And he told you that it was a hoax. Just a moment. Let's let this interview finish. Then I got something else I want to show you. Always remember this. The problem with perfect plans is that we have to depend on imperfect people to implement them. I wanted to share this with you. For in hindsight, as you look at the president and the former president and the former secretary of state in their respective roles, you can see how far we have fallen as a nation. You can see that the United States, you take things for granted. As the old saying goes, you don't miss your water until your well run dry. You did not miss your statesmen or your politicians, your true servants. You didn't realize how much you were being served until you didn't have them there no more. You know what's wrong? You know what was wrong with the Titanic? They probably didn't think they needed to care about who was the captain. Did you hear what I said? And he sunk that ship. Now, I want you to let me see here. Let's see if I can find it. I wanted to show you this other interview that Howard Stern did.
I am really excited. Hillary Clinton is here. Former senator, former first lady, former secretary of state. Look at you. Wow. I can't even believe it.
She's here.
There you are. Can I just stare at you for a while? How are you? Good to see you. This is so exciting for me.
Well, it's exciting for me too, I think.
Yeah, I'll let you get it. You'll see.
You think?
You don't know yet. I think, I don't know if you read this piece of mine, but my fantasy was not only to meet you, but to tell you what a hero you were to me and how special you are to me and your level of expertise and everything you've done. To sit here and get to tell you that is very exciting for me.
Well, thank you.
And I was such a big supporter of yours, even going back the first time you ran for president, when you were running against Obama, and people forget how close that really was.
Yeah.
It was really touch and go as to who was going to really get the nomination.
That's right.
Did you ever hear about his support for you?
And I didn't until you know, in the 2016 campaign.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In the 2016
Yeah.
campaign.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have so much to talk about, but,
He's jumping out of his skin.
Yeah, I really am. But, you know, because to me, you had the experience that I wanted in a president. And when you were Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger said, you were like an incredible secretary. And he is the gold standard. The guy's a brilliant guy.
Just a minute. I want to go into what led up to that. Because sometimes I get things a little messed up here because my memory is good, but it's not as good as a tape recorder or whatnot. But I think this is the one that led into that. And it was very important that you see that Howard Stern, he was a very, he's very articulate. And even though he plays, he acts silly sometimes, but he's not silly. You understand what I'm saying? There's the old saying a wise man can act a fool, but a fool can't act no wise man. And even in his playful way, you can tell that he's a long way from being stupid. You know, I like listening to people who, I used to like listening to, I found out that he was maybe a little racist, but, I used to like to listen to Sid Harvey. When he'd be telling the rest of the story, he'd bring up some very interesting things. I learned a lot from listening to him. Beg your pardon? Was it Paul Harvey? Okay, Paul Harvey. And the rest of the story. And I used to, maybe, feel a little guilty with listening to these white people. Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the devil is not a fool in wisdom. He said, study the devil in that he works hard to be successful. He goes after with all that's in him. And he does not quit. If he fails, he tries again. And this is, we can learn a lot from him. I've learned a lot from watching Caucasian people. How in the world you gonna be here up under this man and he been ruling the world and you didn't learn nothing from him? Well, that makes you pretty stupid. Especially now that I know that he was given the baton to run with, and now I'm the one that's being passed to. Well, I'm sure glad I paid attention. It wouldn't be passed to me. Because Allah ain't taking one devil down to let another one get up. That ain't finna happen. He could have left the original one up there if that's all was gonna happen. The messenger said, if you say there goes the devil, then don't try patterning yourself after the devil. Show the devil that you are a righteous person because he's watching you for such. And if you say he's not righteous, he will say, I was not my maker. And that'll stop your mouth. So he gave me, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave me a lot to think over. And the more I listened to him, the more depth his words take me into in thought, to make sure that I understand or understood what I thought or think I understood or understand. So, as I was listening to Howard Stern talking about what he tried to get Miss Clinton to do, but she wouldn't, didn't. But, you know, it wasn't meant to be. It wasn't, I mean, if the scripture says that this man would be given that position for a time and times and the dividing of times, wasn't nothing gonna stop that. It's just like our slavery. And when the word said, they shall serve them and they shall afflict them 400 years, that's a done deal. Ain't no way to get around that. Willingly or unwillingly, we was going through it. You understand? Okay.
Right. I mean, all of the work you've done and all of the public service.
Wait a minute.
That.
I didn't go to the one I wanted. Just a moment.
We're going to turn to Georgia's interview with radio legend Howard Stern. We hear it's very candid.
It is candid. Howard talks about everything and anything. As you know, he has no filter, but this book is still full of surprises, a lot of self-reflection from Howard as well, inside how he's changed over the years, and the art of interviewing. He also opens up about his most famous guest, President Trump, and Hillary Clinton, the one that got away. This is becoming the Howard Stern show.
But wait a second. Let me take 5 minutes for this.
When you interview Howard Stern, yeah, I'm in charge here. It's my interview.
Right. This is difficult for me.
The mic is always hot.
Completely hijacked. Right here.
But now he has a new book.
Howard Stern comes again.
I love that.
So Howard is trying to answer questions about his personal journey and his most memorable moments on air.
We have to talk about Donald Trump. He's a big character in the book because
He's a big character on my show.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. You say one of your best guests ever.
Donald Trump, hands down, whenever you put him on the air. Now, this is before he was running for president. He was an open book. He would say anything. And, you know, oddly enough, during the campaign and even now, people quote these interviews that I did with him big time. I was quite surprised when they dragged out every single Donald Trump interview I had done. And in some ways, I felt it was unfair to Trump because, like, for example, they were fond of quoting that Donald Trump had said something to the effect that STDs were his personal Vietnam. But really, it was in a very joking scenario. He was not comparing his life to a Vietnam vet. It was ha, 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 and this and that. But when journalists took it and made it serious, I thought it was a little bit unfair. Having said that, though, Donald Trump would come on my show, and this is why he was great. There was no filter. I go, Donald, Angelina Jolie, she's one of the most beautiful actresses in the world. She's a 6, you know. Now, who says that? You know, most people, if they're having that thought, keep that pretty guarded. Not Donald. He was right into it. Ivanka Trump.
You know who's one of the great beauties of the world, according to everybody, and I helped create her? Ivanka.
Most beautiful girl in the world. You know, I would marry her. These types of things most people, certainly politicians, don't say.
Well, no question about it. Do you feel that in some way you helped make him president?
Absolutely. Because Donald would come on my show. I mean, look.
Does it make you feel bad or good?
Well, look, I did not vote for Donald Trump. I go into great lengths in this book, and I think people will be interested in this. Hillary Clinton, you know, like in Moby Dick, I was chasing her. She was my obsession. I wanted to see Hillary Clinton win. And I thought if she had come on the show, the way I helped Donald was I let him come on and be a personality. Whether you liked him or not, people related to him as a human being. I wanted to do that for Hillary. The big knock against Hillary, especially with some of the male audience, was, we don't like her.
And you could feel that on the air.
I absolutely could feel it on the air.
And all during that time, you do write about this. You're trying to get Hillary Clinton on your show. As you said, she's afraid of you.
Hillary Clinton's afraid of me, and justifiably. Look, she's got a big campaign. She doesn't know about I'm in therapy and doesn't know that what I really wanted to do, I didn't want to ask her about her sex life. I didn't want to ask her about Bill Clinton and his affairs or any of that. The woman has devoted her life to public service. Why? What is it about public service? What is it that drives her? What was it like when she saw when her husband becomes president? Was there envy there? What was her climb? I thought that perhaps if she came on my show, we could have stripped away some of the pomp and circumstance or the tightness that comes with running for president. And like Donald, she could have been seen in a different light.
And you believe if she had done that, she'd be president?
That's an arrogant statement. And, to sit here and cavalierly say, yes, she would have been president. No. But look at the Electoral College and look at that. It came down to a couple of states. And it was
70,000 votes.
70,000 votes. On SiriusXM, we have 33 million subscribers, and we calculate that at a minimum, per subscription, there are 2 people listening per family. Let's say there's 66 million people. They tell me 60% of Sirius's audience listening to me. Out of that audience, if Hillary had come on, in the same way that Lady Gaga came on, or Gwyneth Paltrow, or Rosie O'Donnell, and guys call me afterwards, man, I never liked Lady Gaga, but I just heard her talking. I'm going to her concert. These are hardcore dudes who don't get sometimes. They're too caught up in that she's a woman or I look like a wuss if I'm listening to this.
Listen to what Howard is saying, Mr. Stern is saying. Too many people try to judge you. I mean, it happens to us all. Most of us are guilty of that. Call yourself sizing somebody up from just looking at them. Huh? But if you had just taken the time, if not, that's the one thing that I like about radio and television talk show hosts. That's the one thing that I think is a good thing. That where you just hear gossip about people, when you hear them in a real interview, the best host is the one that asks a question and gets the person just talking so that you can see into the person's character. And the more if you had just taken the time, I wish Miss Clinton had taken the time to go on Howard and to just go out and be interviewed by people. You would have thought that it was a blessing to have a woman so intelligent to be president of the United States. Watch what Howard says. I mean, just listen to what he's saying. Because I agree 100% with what he said. You know.
If Hillary could have come in and maybe persuaded 70,000 people out of those millions of people that listen and come off in such a way, maybe we'd be looking at a different scenario.
Now, Stern and Trump, not as close as they used to be.
The turning point in my relationship with Donald was he did ask me to speak at the convention. And I had to say no. And
Were you tempted at all?
Well, since I was a Hillary supporter, for a minute I thought, well, I'll go up and endorse Hillary, which would have been a great moment.
You wish you would have done that now?
No, I wouldn't do that to Donald.
You see what I mean about civilized? I mean, he plays the clown, but it's just certain things you just don't do. Right? And, just...
it's a weird relationship I have with Donald. Was at my wedding. I remember having very warm feelings for Donald, and I do. I mean, he was always very nice to me. I've had dinner at Mar-a-Lago many times. And that...
Now, listen close now. Listen close. Because a lot of times you think you know people. You can be around someone all your life and think you really know them until a circumstance comes up and you find out that they're not the person that you thought they were. Huh?
I don't even believe that Donald really even wanted this all to work out for him. Because if you go to Mar-a-Lago, it's like a piece of heaven. It's a beautiful place. And I would go there to eat dinner with my wife. And by the way, I was never comped. I paid. So we weren't that good of friends. And I remember thinking, why would a guy want to leave this? He plays golf every day. I don't think he wants that life.
But you don't want him to be president, but you can't help like him?
Well, I have a real problem. As you can tell, if I was a Hillary Clinton supporter, you can tell I have a real problem with what's going on. So I'm very conflicted now. The guy I knew I didn't know this was him. I don't believe his stance on abortion, for example. The Donald I know, I think he probably needed to get a few people abortions. I don't know what he's doing. The stance on abortion, the women don't have the right to choose what they, you don't have to get an abortion. But if you want the right, I remember the days of women in the back alleys with coat hangers. That's not acceptable. And you know who used to be able to get abortions? Rich people. They could get them. And so, let's face it, it is really unthinkable to me about what's going on in the country right now.
Howard doesn't like to think about his previous books either. The new one, inspired by a health scare he kept secret from his listeners.
I had been diagnosed with kidney cancer, and I had to go in for surgery. And I was freaking out. I go, this can't be. And they had told me it was 95% chance it was cancer, and it turned out not to be cancer. It was like a miracle for me.
So when it passes, did you have that old Winston Churchill feeling of nothing being more exhilarating than being shot at and missed?
Yeah, well, that's why I think I also wrote this book. It all of a sudden brought me to some kind of reality. You're not going to live forever. And what am I most proud of? What do I want my children to see? What do I want? And these interviews and what I've written here represents to me the best of me.
The best, but he does not shy away from the worst of himself either. Like I said, he talked about his past books. He said he can't even look at them anymore. And he also opens up about what he considered his worst interview ever, and that is revealing as well. We're going to talk about that in our next hour.
And you also have an extended version on Nightline
and Hulu. Hulu can play basically the whole interview.
What? Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. He doesn't hold back. We see that. I am really excited. Hillary Clinton is here. Former senator, former first lady, former secretary of state. Look at you. Wow. I can't even believe it.
She's here.
There you are. Can I just stare at you for a while? How are you? Good to see you. This is so exciting for me.
Well,
I really enjoy when I'm able to see that a person is really being honest and not just saying something to be saying it. Now, he said he admired Miss Clinton and he wanted her for president and wanted her to come on for an interview. And now I think this was in 2018 or 2019. He finally got her to come on. And the interview was so long, it's in 5 parts to show you that he was being truthful. There's something I would like to say while it crossed my mind while I know that people all over the earth view what's going on in America here. And it may be a few people, I know it's a few people in other countries that's viewing us. Any of you that are leaders, if you are a king, if you are a prime minister, or if you are the head of state, one of the things that makes the United States and has made the United States able to excel many other nations is the constant influx into leadership of new minds. I remember the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this. He said, gods have died. People that the word of truth was with. That's what he meant when he said gods. The word was with God. Gods have died. But one a little wiser rose up. They didn't die until one was born wiser and able to move on. Just like Yaqub, he's finally dying now. Do you understand? He was around here 6,000 years. That's another level of understanding of that. But he said, the creator of the heaven and earth that we now see here, he said, he died. No, we have not met him. He said, but one rose up a little wiser, and that's how we keep things going. It would not be a beautiful heaven and earth if the same God ruled all the time. What is that to say? Once the mind reaches a place where it cannot, it does not grow, it does not change, then everything stagnates. And the next thing you know, you get bored. And the next thing you know, you just going in a circle in a big hurry, nowhere. In this grand, unending universe, you done got stagnated. So, you notice the United States is every 4 years, you're getting a new president. At least if not every 4, every 8, you're getting a new one. To surround yourself with people who can keep new ideas in you, that you can support, that can come up with new things that you can support. But you will never do that if you feel like intelligence is a threat to you. You should not feel threatened when you find that some of your brothers and sisters, your fellow countrymen, are highly intelligent. you should feel proud. And you should work with them. You should invite them to be in your circle. And if you see that that person is more knowledgeable than you in whatever sphere, you should be willing to turn over the reins to that sphere of that circle or that field. You should gladly step aside and say, take the lead on it. And whatever you need, let me know and I'll see if I can get it for you. That's the job of leadership. What is the point of being blessed with talents that all you try to do is bury them in the earth instead of letting the light that's in them shine and make progress for your people and their people? Patriots, the only thing patriots want to do is use their skills to help their people. The little fringe benefits of houses and cars and bank accounts and stuff, that's just fringe benefits. But the best reward of a patriot is to be allowed to express that patriotism with his hands and with his talents, or her hands and her skills, using them to move their country ahead, to move their people forward, to benefit their people. There is no greater joy than to be able to look, and like that thing I saw on the Twilight Zone, that the man stood before this inscription that said, "Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity." I thought that was, a very wise and thoughtful statement. And it has depth to it. Because it denotes that we should not just live, but we should strive to live a life that will bring about an end to some of the obstacles to the perfection of man.
Yeah, I'll let you get, you'll see. You don't know yet. I think, I mean, I don't know if you read this piece of mine, but my fantasy was not only to meet you, but to tell you what a hero you were to me and how special you are to me, and your level of expertise and everything you've done. To sit here and get to tell you that is very exciting for me.
Well, thank you.
And I was such a big supporter of yours, even going back the first time you ran for president, when you were running against Obama, and people forget how close that really was.
Yeah.
It was really touch and go as to who was going to really get the nomination.
That's right.
Did you ever hear about his support for you?
And I didn't until, in the 2016 campaign.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In the 2016
Yeah.
campaign.
Yeah.
But, I have so much to talk to you about, but
He's jumping out of his skin.
Yeah, I really am. But, because to me, you had the experience that I wanted in a president. And when you were Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger said, you were like an incredible secretary. And he is the gold standard. The guy's a brilliant guy.
Right.
I mean, all of the work you've done and all of the public service, that's what I want in a president. I need somebody proven.
Well, we do need that, don't we?
We do need it.
We
really do need it.
I know.
And well, first of all, let's get this out of the way. You've written this book with your daughter.
Right.
The Book of Gutsy Women.
Right.
And I was shocked. No Oprah.
We left out some of the best known people like Oprah or Michelle Obama, for example, or Angela Merkel.
Good. They get enough.
Well, we thought that, first of all, they do a great job speaking for themselves and everybody knows they're gutsy.
Right. What does gutsy mean, to be a gutsy woman?
It means having that determination, that persistence to not only achieve something for yourself, but also to make a positive difference for others. I'm interested in people who are successful, and there are many of them, obviously men and women. But I'm especially interested in people who overcome unbelievable obstacles because they believe in something bigger than themselves.
I was thinking this book is like an award show. Like
it is.
Hillary Clinton. By the way, would I call you Madam Secretary or would I call you Senator? I think it's Madam Secretary, right?
It is, or Hillary.
No, forget Hillary.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk. I feel weird doing that. We don't know each other well enough.
Yeah, we don't, not yet.
But it's Madam Secretary, right?
Yeah, that's the latest thing, right?
That you always take the latest thing. And although being a senator.
You see what I mean there? You notice. He said, I don't know you well enough to be on no first name basis with you in so many words. Now, that shows a civilized mind. You give people the respect that they are due, and don't think just because you all are speaking or whatnot that gives you the right to get familiar. Like I said, Howard Stern, as I've listened to him a little more with these interviews here, it made me see him in a different light, other than just a passing thing, seeing him joking around with people and going through that little repertoire of, but the man has some depth. People who have depth. I love to listen to people who have depth. Always come away thankful that I paid attention. So I know sometime he may have something that I'm not interested in. But I really enjoyed these interviews. It gave me a chance to see that, if nothing else, I did not misjudge Miss Clinton. Because the more she talks, the more I realize how much we lost by not choosing her for president.
It's very cool.
It's really cool.
Is it weird for you when you're a senator and you go every day to the Senate and there's not that many senators, so you get to know them on a personal level and you're friendly with them, blah, blah, blah. Then you announce you're going to run for president and they're so scummy to you. I mean, nasty. Is it mind-blowing to you to have to absorb that kind of betrayal?
It's surprising sometimes. And, what really has surprised me more than anything is because you're right. It's 100 people and you're in little elevators with them. You're on the floor of the Senate late into the night.
You
At
eat
least
lunch
when they
with
used
them?
to do things. I
Right.
mean, they don't do much now, but it used to be that you were constantly there. You were working on things. Eat lunch with them. And it's intense, and you're making coalitions all the time, Howard. So
Right.
sometimes, Senator X will be against you, but then tomorrow you've got something that he can really help you on, and you join forces. And I worked with practically every Republican when I was there for 8 years.
And then when you decide to run for president and you just turn on the TV, there's some guy who's actually like a friend of yours who you consider that they admire you, and yet they go on and right away it's like they're screaming about you.
But there's like a spectrum. You expect some of it. Some of the Republicans that I served with never said a bad word about me. I've never said a bad word about them. A lot of them do the obligatory, well, she's a Democrat, I'm a Republican, so obviously I have to say something. But then there are those who've kind of fallen off the edge and have so changed their personality, in my view, their politics.
Like a Lindsey Graham?
Like a Lindsey Graham, exactly.
Like, is he blowing your mind now? Because he's a completely different guy.
I traveled with him because he was, a very good buddy of John McCain, who I admired and liked enormously. So I traveled all over the world with McCain and Lindsey and other senators. And Lindsey was good company. He was funny. He was self-deprecating. He also believed in climate change back in those days.
Really?
And yes.
But he would say, I'm concerned about the future for my children.
Well, he doesn't have any children, but he was concerned about the future. Yeah, absolutely. And so I saw him as somebody who, had been working to try to figure out what he believed and how he could do things.
Has he sold his soul to the devil?
I don't know the answer to that. I think that's a fair question, however. And what I don't understand is how he went from being the friend and the real confidant of the maverick, John McCain, who I didn't agree with politically, but I found him to be a man of integrity, a man of real strength of conviction.
The guy spent 5 years as a prisoner of war.
Yeah, have you ever been to Hanoi? Have you seen that cell he stayed in for 5 years?
It's a tiger cage.
God, it's unbelievable. And so I admired John. I became really friendly with him. I felt like he was a true friend. And so then Lindsey, all of a sudden, John McCain tragically dies too soon.
Right.
After standing up for health care, which was astounding and so in character for him. And now, I don't know what's happened to Lindsey Graham. I'll be honest with you. I haven't talked to him in a long time. He wrote, how Time Magazine has like the top 100 people and all that. One year, I don't know, back in a couple of years ago when I was in it, he wrote the tribute to me. Then now it's like he had a brain snatch,
Like if you saw him, I don't know where you would run into a guy like that, but I assume if you saw him, would you even go over and say hello to him? Maybe you would. Maybe you wouldn't. I mean, he has been vicious to you.
Well, and to a lot of people. I mean, it's not just me. Although,
would you be cordial?
I probably would try to be. Yeah, I would be. I went to the inauguration of Donald Trump, which was one of the hardest days of my life, to be honest.
I am consumed with that. I was thinking about you that day. I was watching you more than I was watching Trump. First of all, I don't even know how you get past. You got 3 million more votes than the guy.
I did, right.
In my mind, you won the election. The Electoral College, I can't explain that. I think it was for some farmer who felt that it was his rights were going to be denied. But the majority of the people in the country voted for you.
Right.
You got the job done.
Right.
When you're standing there watching this guy, what the hell is going through your head? Are you just, I would imagine you were on antidepressants.
Excuse me for cutting in, but I think it's, in the Electoral College, I think the reason that it was set up was so that no state, no citizens could feel like their vote does not count. I mean, the most populated areas if you just go strictly by the popular vote, then the election would be over after California, New York, and some of them highly, maybe Texas, and a few of them voted. The election might be over, if that was the case. So in order to make sure that everybody felt that they had a say-so, that every state had a say-so, they do a census and they award electoral votes based on the amount of people that's in your state. You understand? That way, every state has a electing power to, every state becomes important. And so I understand that. At least that's my take on that. I may be wrong. If someone who may have a better, clearer thing on it, I didn't set it up. White people did, but I can see the reasoning behind it. And they are trying to keep it a united republic. It's called a democratic republic. And that is, every person is represented, but they have representatives that represent them. And in whichever party has the most representatives in the Senate and in the House, they are the controlling party. They get to rule. You understand? And so that is, I can relate to that. But anyway, so Howard is showing that he really respects Miss Clinton. As do I. The more I listen to her, as you can't help but respect her history, her track record. I'm trying to figure out where these people get their notion to be talking about lock her up. Slander is a terrible thing. The very one who was hollering, lock her up. One of them, that Brigadier General, I guess what was he, Lieutenant General or Brigadier General? Mike Flynn. He got locked up and had to be pardoned by another one who needed to be locked up. It's sad. Lieutenant General, yes. They got pictures of him sitting next to Putin and got evidence of him talking to Kislyak during the inauguration, telling them, don't worry about what Obama and them did. We gonna undo that. That's gonna get undone. But you want to lock up Miss Clinton. But just wait until you see all of the things that she did even before she came into the limelight. The woman got a history of service to the United States.
Since that day.
Here's how I felt about it. I mean, obviously, I was crushed, I was disappointed, and I was really surprised because I couldn't figure out what had happened.
And you hadn't even written a losing speech when you lost that.
No,
you had only had victory in mind.
No, and everything was pointed in that direction. So when he's going to be inaugurated, I was going as a former First Lady.
Right.
That was the reason I was there. I was no longer in the Senate. I was the Secretaries of State don't usually attend. So I was.
But your
go.
sense of duty is my husband was president, I was first lady, and this is what we say to the country. There's continuity.
That is exactly how I felt. And a lot of people said to me, don't put yourself through that. Don't go. And I said, look, I ran for president because I love this country. I wanted to serve this country. I thought I would have been a really good president. I want him
you would have been spectacular.
Well,
with all your experience.
Yeah, I hope
foreign
so.
affairs.
Yep. But
would you be crushing NATO right now? I don't think so.
No, we need them. But
so you're standing up there.
So I said to myself, I said to everybody who talked to me about it, look, I hope he's going to be a better president than I think he will be. I'm worried about it, but I'm going to do everything I can. As I told him when I called him, that terrible night, and said, I did. I said, look, Donald, I want you to be a good president. I will do whatever I can to help you. So, we're in that
was he
period.
Gracious or was he a sore?
He was so shocked he couldn't. He could barely talk.
He was as shocked as you.
Right.
He was more shocked than me, I think.
Wow. He was shocked.
Yeah, he was shocked.
Right.
And so when I got there, go ahead, get out there. You put on the best face possible. And Bill and I are sitting with George and Laura Bush. And then he started on that speech, which was so bizarre. And that's when I got really worried. I thought, wait a minute.
This isn't rational.
It's not rational, but it's also it's not politics. It's not what a president does. A president is supposed to try to reach out to people who weren't for him or her. You're supposed to say, okay, I'm going to be the president of everyone, those who supported me and those who didn't, because we're going to pull the country together. I'd hoped that I would hear a little of that. I didn't hear any of that. And then that carnage in the street and the dark dystopian vision, I was sitting there like just, wow, couldn't believe it. And George W. Bush says to me, well, that was some weird shit.
Wow. And don't you think that these guys in the Republican Party who were even running against him in the primary, who had horrible things to say about him, do you think they secretly look at something like that, a moment like that, and go, "Oh my God, we're in for a horrible scene," or do you think they're all in? I don't know.
I don't think they were all in the beginning. I think that they were still trying to make sense of it, at least the ones that I knew. But a lot of the ones who have spoken out against him have decided to leave politics.
That's right.
They speak out. Then they say they're retiring.
But isn't that cowardly?
I think it is.
Yeah, I mean,
think it's
why
really
retire?
Cowardly. Well, first of all, Howard, these are not just political differences. Look, if I had lost to a normal Republican, I would have been unhappy.
Right.
But I wouldn't have had that pit in my stomach, like, what the heck? What is going to happen? What's he going to do next? His impulsiveness, his vindictiveness, where does this lead? So I think that a lot of Republicans also thought, oh, we can control him, we can manage him, we can do this. And I think what they now have to be considered is just, cowardly.
What goes through your mind when he's got these people revved up? Lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. Even now, it's still lock her up. Are you afraid for your own life?
Honestly, I have been in the past. And remember, some months ago, the guy who was inspired by him started sending pipe bombs around.
Yeah.
To me, to former President Obama and others. So clearly, he just incites these deep, irrational, and unfortunately sometimes violent emotions. Some of the people who have gone into synagogues and churches and Walmarts and other places and shot them up and murdered people have clearly been unleashed. I don't want to say it's a direct cause. I don't think that's fair. But
people are amped up.
People are amped up. And there's always been, look, human nature being what it is, there's always been a lot of, emotions that people have, biases, prejudices, attitudes, anti-Semitism, racism, whatever it is. But you're supposed to, in a civilization, try to keep that down. I mean, that's part of the job of leaders. And it's also the part of the job of self-disciplining yourself. You can say, okay, I may not like that kind of person, but I would never say that or I'd never do that. But he has made it possible for all the worst impulses. It's like Pandora's box. You lift the top off and things start flooding out. That's difficult to get back into the box.
There was something sweet I read. I don't know if it's true. The night of the election, and I can't imagine the despair you were feeling. I mean, going through a campaign, first of all, when I think about these campaigns,
They're brutal.
they are brutal. And you know what I think is the most brutal part? This is an outsider looking in. When you have to sit and do like Saturday Night Live and do these comedy sketches, you're not a comedian.
Yeah.
You're a very serious woman. You're an academic. And I mean that with praise. You went to Yale. You're an attorney. You have served presidents. You've done some incredible. You've been a United States Senator. You cared about healthcare. You cared about all the. Now you're running for office, and you got to go eat hot dogs at the hot dog contest, and all of that stuff is such BS. And when I'm watching you on Saturday Night Live with these sketches, I know you're being a good sport because you have to show your personality and your self-effacing and all this stuff. But it's got to be a nightmare for someone like you. It's got to be.
It's outside my comfort zone, let me be honest.
It's nonsense.
Well, it is nonsense, but Saturday Night Live, I've always enjoyed going on, even though it's not easy for me, because you're right, I'm not a comedian by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't mind that at all. I don't really mind that. I like doing things that other people enjoy and appreciate. So that's not a problem. What I find most challenging is, politics has to be entertaining to a certain extent, because you got to attract people's attention. Professional entertainers, like you are, but they are, people have to have that personality. Okay, right. I get all of that. And I'm more than willing to try. But what I really don't understand is how we have almost trivialized politics to the point that it's about nothing but entertainment. I mean, the coverage of it is so superficial, and these are serious issues. I mean, these are, in many instances,
it's like a game show.
It's like a game show, and the consequences are on the people who are going to be affected by who gets elected.
You see how intelligent she is? I know how she feels. It hurts when you got so much good that you could do for people that you care for, and they just pass right over you to follow somebody and support somebody that don't give a damn about them. I mean, that hurts, man.
Decide to do.
You know what I want? You speak about a game show. I used to have this fantasy when I would watch you debate Trump. I was saying to myself, I wish you would take out a map and say, Donald, point to where Russia is on the map. I had this fantasy.
That's a great idea, actually.
I wanted to see you do. Yeah. I wanted you to say, name the president of Yugoslavia or something. I just wanted to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wonder if he could find Texas on the map. Now,
well, apparently not, because remember he said the wall was going to be along Colorado. So
right.
Yeah, that was a problem.
Like there was a moment when Gerald Ford ran and he screwed up something about Eastern Europe, or I forget what the thing was. But there was that moment where people said Gerald Ford doesn't understand the basics of geography or history. And like a game show, I wish Alex Trebek would have walked out and asked you guys a couple of basic questions and to see who could actually answer them.
You know, Howard, that's a really interesting insight, because I kept thinking, okay, we're going to get to the debates, and the debates are going to be very determinative, like you were talking about Gerald Ford. And I've watched presidential debates, and you can see moments when, oh my gosh, the audience goes. You can just tell.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, he won't be prepared. He won't know. He'll just stick with the same shtick. And look, by all these measurements that they do, I won these debates, but it no longer matters as much.
It doesn't.
That's what bothers me. It's like, okay,
you were almost too nice.
Well, I was. I don't know if I was too nice, but I was certainly, very careful. And the reason is, look, I grew up at a time when if you were going to get through a door as a woman, you did not react to anything. I remember taking the law school exam at a huge hall at Harvard, and there were, hundreds of men, and there was like maybe 50 women. And we were in this room waiting for the test to start. And I was sitting with some of my women friends who were there with me, and all of a sudden, these young men start harassing us, like, "What are you doing here? You have no right to be here." And it was
Really?
and it was during the Vietnam War. So they were saying things like, "If you get a slot, then I'm going to get sent to Vietnam. I'm going to die. It's going to be your fault." And I mean, just
Guys would say that to you.
saying it. They were saying it to us. And so what did we all? We just put our head down, like, okay, yeah, take the test. You show you can do it. And so throughout a lot of my both professional and public career, people have said, "Oh, I don't know her." Part of it was that training, like, okay, you're a woman trying to do something that not many other women or any women have ever done. You've got to stay focused. Don't get distracted. Guys are going to be trying to say this and do that. You just keep going. And so
I understand that in a way that works to your detriment, because you're being reverential to even this guy who's looming behind you on the stage.
Yeah, because if you suppose, and I thought a lot about this afterwards, suppose I had turned around and said, "Back up, you creep, you're not going to intimidate me." The headlines would have been, "Lost her, calm, switches into being angry."
Right.
And
it would have worked against
It would have worked against me. And then all the pundits would have said, "Well, if she can't take Donald Trump, how's she going to take Vladimir Putin?" So I'm not unaware of this.
So you got this dialogue going on in your head.
Back and forth.
Well, I remember when you ran for senator of New York, Giuliani was originally going to run against you.
Oh, he was running against me.
Yes, and he got prostate cancer. He stepped out. This guy Lazio came in.
Yes.
And I remember Lazio walking over I think I remembered him walking over to your side where you were on the podium, and he came into your space.
Right. Can I tell you?
Guys do this with you all the time.
Well, because they know that that's one of the ways to shake women. So that's another great example. So
it's scary.
We're on the debate stage. We were in Buffalo, actually.
Right.
And all of a sudden, he is making some demand. Like he says, "I want you to sign this pledge right now." And he walks over, and I just stand there and I just look at him. So this would have been 2000. So it ends, and all the male pundits said, "Oh my God, he really gave it to her."
This guy walked right into your space, and he just took he was like sucking the air out of the room. And I thought, there's not going to be a human being who will vote for this guy. Actually, he lost, handily, and you won.
But the switch didn't happen until the next day when women started speaking up.
Right.
The men on the TVs who were analyzing it and in the press were like, "Oh, wow, that was impressive." The next day, women are saying, "Who does he think he is?"
Well, I thought when Trump was invading your space.
Yeah.
But you say, I never looked at it that way. Because you're a woman, you kind of have to figure out how to negotiate with men and how to deal with men.
Right.
And when they do all this stuff, because in my mind, I'm thinking like a guy. I think you go into this debate and you turn to this guy. It's quite simply, why won't you release your taxes? What are you hiding?
Right.
And then when you give some bullshit answer, "I'm not leaving."
Right.
I want to know. I don't care about anything else. I'm running for president. I've released my taxes. Why won't answer the question? Why won't you? I'm under audit. No, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe a woman just you got to figure out every angle how to play this thing.
Well, I think that it may be changing a little bit, and I hope that it is, because
there's something I want to say to the sisters, the women. When a man does something like that to you in front of a bunch of people, ask him, "If I was a man, would you do what you're doing now?" And it might even help if you recall when he was talking to another man, he didn't do that. Then why you want to come up here and front me off like that? He'll stop.
It makes it really difficult if you're a woman on the public stage. It's not just politics, it's everything, media, business, you name it, to know how to respond in those situations, because we just haven't had that much experience. I mean, when you say as a man I could do this, is because, there are all kinds of models that you can point to.
Right.
I remember I used to try lawsuits 100 years ago, and it was so funny to me because I would try cases with and against all different male lawyers. I mean, they'd be tall.
You were a trial lawyer?
I was a trial lawyer. They'd be tall, they'd be short, they'd be fat, they'd be thin, they'd be well-dressed, they'd be schlumpy, they'd be everything.
Right.
But there had not been women lawyers in a lot of these courtrooms. And so when I would go, because I was in Arkansas, and I would go into these small, county courthouses.
Oh, they must have loved you.
Well, I mean, one day I'm trying a lawsuit in North Arkansas, and we take a little break. I come back, and there were like 5 guys sitting there in camouflage.
Why?
Well, that's what I didn't know. You're sitting there waiting for the trial to start again. So I said to the bailiff, I said, who are these guys? He goes, they're out in the deer woods, and they came in from camp to buy some supplies, and they heard there was a lady lawyer in town, so they came to watch.
Oh my God.
It's entertainment. It was entertainment. It was like the talking dog. Because I am of that generation where it was the first all the time. I remember trying another lawsuit, and the trial was supposed to last a day, so I'd driven up early in the morning. I was going to turn around, go back, and something happened. The trial was going to go on. I had no clothes. And so I said, well, Judge, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to be wearing the same thing tomorrow that I wore today. Because, you look nice. You look pretty. But if you want to come over to my house, my daughter's about your size. You can borrow her clothes. I mean, there was just all these new kinds of
whoever thinks about what a guy is going to get,
nobody. You can wear the same
damn suit every day. Well, that's the problem.
Saying that, I think of the O.J. Simpson trial where the female lawyer, Marcia Clark, had to do a makeover. She was getting so criticized for how she looked, what she wore, what she wore, what her hair looked like.
Yeah. Well, Robin, I mean, you know this because you're a professional, and we are getting to a point where there are enough different role models now so that you don't have to have some preconception that you have to meet a stereotype that people impose upon you, but it still is tough. It still is a challenge.
And because it almost sounds like there was nothing you could do that was right.
Well, I think there's a lot of that. And people, I'm now watching this current presidential campaign, and I read research and I look at, what people say. And there's still these double standards. Let's just be honest. There's double standards. And if you want to compete at the highest level in whatever your area of interest is, you just got to figure out how to absorb it and deal with it.
So if you had to advise these people, let's say, I don't know who's going to get the nomination. Are you in favor of anyone over anyone, or are you just
whoever can win? That's all I care about.
So that's tricky.
It is tricky.
And do you think Biden could win?
Well, the polls say he can.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think he could get the nomination, or is the party going too left and they're looking for a Bernie Sanders and a...
I think it's too soon to tell because nobody has voted or caucused. So I think that right now, according to the polls, Biden is going to get the nomination, but that's, a long way off. And then he can win the Electoral College. Because remember, it's not the popular vote.
But don't you think they need a middle-of-the-road kind of candidate? I mean, anybody...
I think in a general election, it's a process of addition. You want to take the people who are already for you and add to them. And that's tricky because the other thing that's going on now is 24/7 news coverage.
Right.
I mean, it never ends. And everybody is a self-proclaimed photographer because they have their cell phone. And I mean, you yawn or you swallow something the wrong way, whatever the problem might be, all of a sudden it's everywhere. So people just have to understand the environment in which we are. I may not like it and I wish it were different, but it is a reality.
I was thinking about this. I don't know what your father was like. I've only read one word, that he was gruff. And to me, that doesn't sound very good. But I would imagine once you get to your level, and once you have Secret Service all the time, and once you have these guys kind of taking care of you, they're almost like the fathers that weren't good to you. They worry about your every move. They worry about your safety. They constantly drive you. You almost become infantilized in a sense.
You've got to fight against it. I mean, I think that's pretty perceptive. Your therapy really...
It's paying off.
It pays off. You've got lots of really insightful...
Have you ever done it? You've never tried it?
I've never tried it, no.
I can't imagine after the election, you didn't say, I need someone to talk to.
Well, but I did. I talked to... Well, no. I've done counseling, yes. So it wasn't intensive therapy, but I've done counseling. Yeah.
You've gone to somewhere where you feel safe enough.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a psychotherapist.
No.
But was it MD?
No. A psychologist.
Psychologist.
Psychologist, yeah.
I would think you would go to an MD.
No, because this was in the late 90s when there was lots going on in my life, as you remember.
Yeah.
And so we did have somebody come in, and it was more marriage counseling.
Oh, but you never did individual therapy.
No. Mm-mm.
So who do you talk to after this? I read a really sweet moment. After this horror of a night, you and your husband lay down at night. You're laying on your back, he's laying on his back, and he takes your hand and holds your hand.
Right. Yeah. That's good. Oh, you're going to make me cry.
I know. It's the most sweet gesture. What else can you do?
He's been a terrific support. And I also have great friends. I have wonderful friends. I lost 2 friends and my brother this year, and the holidays are hard this year because I miss all 3 of them so much, and they died in May, June, and July. So it was like,
wait, who died? Your brother died. I know
so
that.
My brother died.
Your younger
in
brother.
June. He's one of my 2 younger brothers. Yeah, my youngest. A really, really close friend of mine died in May.
Who was that?
A woman named Ellen Tauscher. Right. She was a congresswoman from California. She was also the undersecretary for arms control in the State Department when I was there as Secretary of State. Negotiated the New START agreement with the Russians. Just an amazing woman. And then
And you would call her and she would talk
she'd come visit me. She came and visited me a lot. And then my best friend from 6th grade, who had been fighting breast cancer for 10 years, but never let it interfere with her incredible love and compassion for all of her friends, plus obviously her wonderful family. Finally, she ran out of things to help her stay alive, and she died at the end of July. So, I have had...
Isn't this age a bit...
Oh, my God.
Like you're watching people... Do you think about that?
I don't think about it. I think about it because, as you just said, I'm losing people that I care a lot about because many others have died too. But those 3 were particularly hard.
Are you deeply religious?
I am. Yeah. I have a deep faith. Yeah. Methodist. Yeah.
That's important to you.
It is important to me.
You believe there's a God and that we're going to go somewhere?
Somewhere. Yeah, I do. I believe that it won't happen in my lifetime, yours, and won't happen for a long time. I think that we're learning more and more about what holds the universe together. I mean, dark matter makes up most of the universe. We really don't quite know what it is, but...
You remember what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us? Yeah. See, she's not a fool. That woman is very intelligent. Dark matter, that which looks like just open space, that's moving. Anyway.
It's energy, and if you believe in... See, I think religious beliefs and science are compatible, unlike...
That's right. When people really understand that science is the search for truth. Seek, and you shall what? When you understand that the truth is the grantor of dominion. As the messenger said, the black man's grantor of dominion, the black man's God is truth. Huh? All right.
Reject one or the other. And so I think that energy doesn't die. Energy keeps going.
Oh, that's comforting. I got a feeling I'm going to just be in the ground, but who knows? But this
well, your body will be probably.
See, that requires more than a word or two. For energy, matter, everything is real. And everything just keeps changing forms. They don't go nowhere.
This gesture by your husband to just sit and hold your hand, it's an important moment.
Right.
Because there's nothing to say after you've worked your ass off your whole life to get to this presidency.
Mm-hmm.
And was that the dream when you were a little girl that you would someday be the president of the United States?
Not at all.
Was it to be a lawyer?
No.
When did that come around?
When I was in college.
And the father, I ask you this because what does it mean when you say your father is gruff?
My father was I guess typical man of his time. You know, he was lived through the Depression. He was a chief petty officer in the Navy during World War II. He wasn't the most emotionally literate person,
Right.
but he had a good heart. He was a hardworking man, but he didn't really understand different ways of communicating. So when I say he was gruff, he yelled a lot, right?
Right.
He yelled a lot. And he would get upset about things. And he would knock my brothers around. Not me, but my brothers. And he was, you know, just really old-fashioned. And we lived in a neighborhood.
Were you afraid of him?
No, I was never afraid of him. No, but I mean...
Could you ever go to him and say, I'm having a hard day?
No.
No way.
No. I mean, that was, you know, again, he was so much like all the other men in the neighborhood that I grew up in and the friends' fathers that I knew. They all had that kind of Depression, World War II mentality. And they all wanted to work hard. They all wanted to be good providers. That's how they defined their lives.
Yeah.
They loved sports.
That's how I understood how men were. As a boy growing up,
That was the only one we knew, right?
Yeah, I'm supposed to grow up, have kids, and make sure I make money for them. That's it.
That's it.
And then I'm done.
But you can also throw the ball around, you know. I mean, my father, you know, we would do, you know, football pass routines. We would go to the park. I loved softball. He would, you know, pitch and coach me. I mean, he was just a man of his time.
And your mother is more complex.
Oh, my mother
reminds me of my mother in the sense that your mother had a horrible childhood.
She did.
Her parents, what, they gave her away or something?
Well, she was born to two teenagers to start with.
Right.
And they were really immature, irresponsible. So they had this little girl, but they never really knew what to do with her or how to take care of her. One story she told me that I just can't ever forget. She was like 3 years old and her father was off working somewhere and her mother was going to go out. And so her mother gave her a meal coupon. They're living in a tenement in Chicago, and told her that when she got hungry, she should go down the stairs, out the door, down to the corner, to the little restaurant, and give them the meal ticket and get fed. So, you know, she would go to school and she never had any food. And in those days, they didn't have like a big cafeteria. You brought what you're going to eat from school to school. And so my mother was neglected. She was basically abandoned. She had a little sister, a few years younger, who was also treated that way. So when my mother was about 8, her parents decided they just didn't want to take care of her anymore at all. Or the little sister. So they put her on a train in Chicago by herself in charge of her little sister, who was like 5. I can't. And sent her and her little sister to live with their paternal grandparents. And the paternal grandparents didn't want them either, but took them in because their son basically said, here, we don't want them, you take them. So my mother lived there for about 4 or 5 years. It was miserable. And then she left that house and she took a job as a housekeeper and a babysitter. She was 13 years old, Howard. And so she, you know, I didn't know any of this when I was a little girl.
But how does that affect your relationship with your mother? In the sense that when you have a woman who has gotten nothing, how does she have anything to give you?
You know, I'll tell you what was so remarkable about my mother, because I've read about your mom, and my mom was also depressed.
Right.
She would, you know, we didn't know what that was, but, you know, she would be really sad. Some days she didn't want to get out of bed. She was just so sad. And I don't think a day went by. I know a day didn't go by. Maybe an hour didn't go by where she wasn't wondering why she hadn't been loved, why her parents didn't love her, why they sent her away, why her grandparents were so cruel to her.
Yes.
But I said to her one time, I said, once I learned about this, I said, you know, how did you do it? I mean, how did you survive? And how did you turn out to be resilient and wanting to be a mom and wanting to do the best you could for your kids? Here's what she said. She said, at critical moments, somebody was kind to me. And so like when she didn't have any food in first grade, and finally the teacher would bring extra food without humiliating her. And she'd say, "Oh, Dorothy, I just brought too much food today. Would you like my extra sandwich?"
Wow.
And that teacher did that for the whole year.
Well, what can you get from a mother like that? I would imagine you growing up and you were a bright student, you did well and everything. I'm talking about your emotional needs. I can't imagine your mother.
Well, the one thing that you notice how much, she has a little in common with us, Black people. Because, when people don't care nothing about you and mistreat you, and you go without being loved, the one thing that it does is it teaches you the value of being loved. It's just like people who go through life never have any resources or money or decent things. It can be a good thing if you gain the lesson to value those things, but not too much. Because you still made it even without those things. You still reached adulthood. But if nothing else, it's like I told you, slavery taught me a good lesson. That is, never be a slave master. Never do people like what was done to you when you know how bad it was. So if Allah was preparing, just like he prepared her to be Secretary of State, to be First Lady, to be, why? How? She was sympathetic and empathetic to poor people. She became an advocate for children and stuff. You'll see that in the interview. I stayed up, I think I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning because it was just that interesting to hear about how her life went. I'm not going to hold y'all here that long. We'll go back into this. If it pleases Allah, we will go back into this Wednesday. But, we could have really, it would have been really nice if she had become president. But anyway, Allah's will be done. If it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be. But at least now we know that it does matter who's president. It does matter. And it also matters who's a senator, and it matters who is in the House of Representatives, which means that nobody should have to beg and go and vote for someone that you believe will do right by the whole country. And if you do that, maybe you'll never wind up in another pandemic and with another do-nothing Congress. So, anyway, I want to express to YouTube, thank you for putting all of those interesting interviews on there. I mean, it really, that's a blessing. I didn't have any idea the depth of Miss Clinton as much as I do now by looking at those interviews that Howard Stern did with her. And I see both of them in a different light now. If you can, you see if we can get an interview, get Howard to call in sometime and let's talk with him. Okay? All right. Did you ever have any luck with Mr. Jackson? I think that was his name. Okay. All right. Now, if no one has any questions, then I'm going to let you go. I know it's late, so I'm not going to hold you any longer. But may Allah bless us and keep us safe and in our right minds. And don't forget, wear a mask. There's not no guarantee we won't get that virus, but it is a 75% chance that we won't contract it or spread it. And if I can help prevent someone from another person from dying from that virus by me wearing a mask, even if it was too late for me, if I can keep others from getting it, well, it would be worth it. Let's not do harm to others. Let's try to do all of the good, give all of our good to other people and keep all our evil to ourselves. Okay? May Allah's Salaam Alaikum.